对，那困困老师啊，您您对您是我们这四个里面唯一一个这个不是技术背景出身的，对吧？这个您是一个
媒体人。
对对对，媒体人。那从您的角度，对您对这个技术和人文，就像您最开始说的，技术和人文的这种交叉碰撞，您有什么感受或者想问凯文的？
我其实想要先问开问一个问题啊，这个问题是从媒体人的视角出发的，这个问题是，假如说，存在一种普通的人，就是大众，和人工智能的相处哲学，在未来，假如说存在这样的哲学，那我们这些普通人，而不是从业者，不是人工智能从业者，我们究竟应该，秉持什么样的观念？我们应该把自己放在什么位置啊？为什么我会问出这个问题？我自己做媒体的这个过程中，有10年也做社交媒体，特别是 GPT 出现之后，其实在社交媒体上，我注意到可能在中国有大概3种这个心态，主要发生在这个社交媒体的用户上。一种就是认为 GPT 将要取代我们了，所以呢，我们干脆就投降，我们就直接做一个宠物就好了啊，我们未来可能真的就是萌宠化了。然后还有一种呢，就是就会认为说，我其实仍然是这个世界的主人，它无非就是另外一个汽车，我要驾驭它啊，我要去这个把它牢牢的掌控在我的手中，这是另外一种人的看法。然后还有一种人可能更像我本人，就是看不清楚，有一种时常摇摆的一个状态。有时候看到说非常的兴奋的一些新闻，说哦，它可以让我们的人文、让我们的社会变得更好，但有的时候又会发现一些新的变化关于 GPT 的一些迭代，又会觉得说，哎呀。它会加剧我们现在已经解决不了的问题，人类完蛋了，所以有一种摇摆，所以回到我的问题，就是从您的角度，普通人到底跟 GPT，应该如何相处才能更代表未来的趋势呢？请您给指条明路。
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's very important to remember that there's going to be many, many varieties and kinds of AIs, plural, many, many species of them. And they'll have their different qualities and their different relationships with us. It's not like there's not just one machine or one tool that we have in the world. We have many tools. We have many machines. A car is different than your phone. Your phone is different than a house, different than an airplane, different than a screwdriver. Those are all tools and machines, and they have different qualities, and we treat them in different ways. The same thing with these AIs. There'll be many, many kinds. And I think there are generally four relationships. One of them is that they would be our slaves. That's you're saying they were the masters. They're our slaves, and they're obedient. They do whatever we want them to do, and we don't think of them as humans, and we can turn them off or throw them away. They're slaves. I think there's a problem with that that's very corrosive to us, that slave master relationship. But there will be some kind of AIs we'll treat like slaves. The second one is, as you said, they're like pets. They could be like pets. They're kind of cute. We bond with them. They're very close. One of the surprises that we're going to have with AIs is when we put emotions into them. It's not very difficult to do. We can program them, and they'll be very emotional, and we'll have very strong feelings for the ones that are designed that way. We'll love them. They will love us back. People are going to be surprised by how emotional they will feel from some of these AIs. They probably have some kind of body, like a robot or a device. So that's the second one, is pets. The third one is that they're like gods. This is the whole singularity, that they're spirits, that they're beyond us and they're powerful. And I said, I think that's unlikely, but that is, some people may attribute them special powers or special relationship. I think the fourth one is going to be the most common, and that is they're like aliens from another planet. They're alien, and they'll be partners. They'll be like Spock on Star Trek. He was the partner of Captain Kirk. He wasn't human. He was really, really smart, but he was just weird and different. And I think that's the relationship we're going to have with these is that they're kind of are alien partners. And they will be other. They may even have consciousness, but most of them won't. They'll be smart, but they'll be smart in a weird, different way. And that's their main value, is that the main value of Spock was that he was not a human. It was that he thought differently. And that's the value of these interns, is that they don't get bored like a human. They have a slightly different view on things that we don't think of. They may not be smarter than us. We might be smarter than them in certain things, but we find them useful because they can do stuff that we get bored with. They can do stuff that we have ideas that we would not think of. By themselves, they may not be completely useful. Spock needed Kirk, and our AIs will need us. And so the way we're going to do it is what I call plus. It's human plus AI. It's AI plus human. It's a team. It's a partnership for many of the AIs. Some will be pets, some will be slaves, but the ones that I think are going to be most useful, they'll be partner aliens. And we often say now that you are not going to be replaced by an AI, but you might be replaced by a human who uses AI. Okay? So you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you might be replaced by a human who uses AI. So you want to start using AI in that kind of partnership.
谢谢，谢谢，很有启发，
是吧？
对，是的。
嗯，
但是其实聊到如果说最常见的人类和这个 AI 之间的关系是 partnership 的话，那您觉得说我们应该掌握一些什么样的技能，更好的会跟 AI 这个新的物种来去合作呢？也就是说，他们可能更擅长，越来越擅长什么，而可能需要人类在补足什么？嗯。
That's a really, really great question, and that's the question we should be asking. And I think we're just figuring out that right now. I mean, this is the large language model AIs have been around for maybe 8 months. So we're just figuring out what these skills are that you want to have to work with AI. And I think it's sort of like I think there might be some similar skills that we want to have when we collaborate with other humans. And so what are those skills? What are the skills that a human needs to be a good collaborator with others? Well, one of the ones is that you want to be flexible and open-minded, meaning willing to learn, willing to change your mind, that kind of flexibility, because the AIs will have ideas that no human would think of. And so you have to kind of get used to that. You have to sort of work with it, because the first idea may not be very good. The first stupid idea that an AI have. So you kind of have to say, you have to work with them and be patient and be open and flexible to a different way of doing things. So I would say that's one quality of working with AIs as a partner, is to be open to a different way of thinking about a problem or thinking about things. And another one is, go ahead. I'm sorry. And another one is what we're finding out is the people, like, say, artists right now who are using AI, like Midjourney and others, to use art. It takes almost 100 hours of using them to begin to understand how they work. And it's like people who love horses or ride horses, they spend enough hours riding the horse that they can kind of begin to understand how the horse thinks. And that gives them an incentive of how to ride the horse or how to use the horse. And I think there is a certain minimum number of hours that you need to be engaging with these to begin to understand how it thinks or how it tends to think or how it tends to do things. So there's a certain familiarity that's required by spending enough hours working with it. So there's some minimum number of hours and time spent to understand how it works. It's like a really good wilderness guide who can guide you through the rainforest and knows what plants to avoid, and it knows that it's about to rain because he can smell the difference in the air. And there's all these things that because they've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours in it, there's an intimacy about that enables them to make the most of that nature. And the same with the AIs is that in order to work well with them, you need to spend a lot of time being with them.
谢谢。
对，其实对凯文这段让我想起来这个很多年前的时候，其实凯文就提到过这个人和这个机器啊，将来应该是组成这个半人马团队，centaur team，这个就是人要跟机器一起来工作。当然那个时候呢，其实是出现在一些体育比赛里面，比如说这个国际象棋，那个时候对吧？这个机器已经完全能够战胜人类的这个时候，对，就出现了这种半人马团队。那我觉得呢，这个今天呢，凯文讲这些呢，其实也是再一次就说明，就是那么今天其实普通人都要跟 AI 一起的去工作，要理解机器，要理解机器。我觉得这个其实蛮关键的，就因为很多人可能对技术、对机器会有这种天生的这种畏惧感、陌生感，对吧？陌生感。那你这种情况下可能就会有些障碍。
是，Kevin，我有个问题想问一下 Kevin，就是因为刚才我们谈了很多人和机器、人和 AI 之间的关系，其实像面壁智能，做了一款这个软件叫 ChatApp，这个呢其实是在去探求 AI 之间的协作会带来什么样的一个效果，所以它是多个 agent 之间的协作。所以我想问一下 Kevin，您觉得 AI 和 AI 之间的关系会不会让这个世界发生很大的变化？
Yes, could you repeat the question parts? I didn't quite understand the question.
OK， 我想问的是说，刚才我们讨论了人跟 AI 之间的关系，但我们也会想象说，每一个不同的 AI，它们之间互相协作，可能能做出远超过单个 AI 能够做出来的工作。所以就是在这个方向上，您有什么样的观点？对，
Oh, okay, I see. I understand. So you were talking about people and AIs collaborating, but you're saying, what about AIs that collaborate with each other? Is that correct? Yes. Okay. I think that's very, very, very powerful, and we haven't explored that at all. And I think that if my vision is correct, that there'll be hundreds or maybe thousands of different species of AIs, then what will be incredibly powerful is if you have an ecosystem of them, just like we would have an ecosystem of like a meadow or coral reef or rainforest, where you have different species that support each other and that are codependent on each other. Because what we know is that the more species there are in a system, the more robust, the more powerful it is. And so if we can make up an ecosystem of different varieties of AIs that are dependent on each other and are producing things that one alone cannot, I think that's going to be even more powerful. And people like Elon and others talk about a supercomputer, a superhuman intelligence. I think the supercomputer will be this ecosystem of many varieties of thinking and cognition that are feeding into each other, probably close to the way our own brain does it. We have different compartments, we have different nodules, the cortex, and they're all a little different, and together they make a larger mind. And I think we'll do the same thing of these sub varieties of AIs that could do something on their own, but when they're put together into an ecosystem, will be incredibly more powerful than them by themselves. And so I don't know, there might be some work on that, but I am not aware of many people thinking about that. But I think that's a very likely scenario of what will happen.
是的，是的，谢谢凯文。就是我们自己的观点也是类似的。其实我们刚才我讲，就也给凯文做一个简单的介绍。我们做的一款小的这个软件叫 ChatDev，然后在这个软件里面，我们就会去定义不同的角色，有 CTO、CEO、CPO，还有programmer，还有 designer 和 tester，然后他们一起合作，现在确实就能够做出一些比较小的完整的软件出来。就是我们的 community 里面，社区里面其实有用户会拿这个 ChatDev 去生成一些，比如说像 Flappy Bird 呀，还有像计算器啊、图片编辑器这样的一些小的一些 software 出来。对，
就完全是机器自己。
对，就只要给它一个非常简单的一个任务就可以了。对。
哎，那你可能做出一个 agent， 它就是凯文·凯利。
对。
我觉得只要有 Kevin 足够多的数据是有可能的。
那 Kevin， 你愿意有这样的 agent 出现吗？
Yeah, of course. I would love to have something. And right now we're trying to do that with trying to make like an advice bot trained on my book of advice. And then we're trying to do something with training it on all the material that I've already written and all my interviews, just to see what would happen. It's going to be a toy. It's not going to be real, but I think that is something that most people will do. I would say maybe in 10 years, 15 years, people will have these AIs that can be refined by training on their own material, their own lives, their own content. So you have a personalized, slightly personalized. So it knows everything. And in addition, it knows your own past work, your own past speaking, whatever you've written, whatever you've tweeted, and it can train on you and produce something that's different than other people produce. And I think that you're not going to be replaced. I'm not going to be replaced by my bot. That's impossible because it's running on silicon and I'm running on flesh, and they're never going to be the same. But it'd be useful to try and have something that, again, is an alien version of me. It's not me, but it's alien version. I think people will find that useful to work with as a, not quite a twin, but a partner. And I just wanted, while you were speaking, I wanted to remind people that Marvin Minsky, one of the original AI leaders, before there was AI, he was imagining it in the 1970s, wrote a book called Society of Mind. And the idea was that our own minds are a society of different kinds of thinking. And that if you have artificial thinking, that you need a society of them to make something really complex. So So this idea of collaboration among AIs is not a new idea. It was kind of the original one, saying that our own minds are made up of a society of different kinds of thought, and AI, as it succeeds, has to collaborate with different kinds of thinking to make a more powerful type. And I think using that to make versions of ourselves is going to be very common.
我也相信这个Kevin是不可被取代的。那事实上，对，事实上我们每个人都是不可被取代的，都是unique，对吧？我也想起来，对，我也想起来 Kevin 在这个 Out of Control 里面，就失控里面，其实讲过有一章讲过一个特别经典的一个场景，就是他谈到了这个博尔赫斯的这个巴别图书馆。对，这个巴别图书馆它是一个什么呢？它是一个就是你能想象到的所有可以能写出来的书都在里边。那写一本书的过程，其实就是在里面去漫游搜索的一个过程。那这个过程，对，组合过程。但是这个过程，那 Kevin 写的失控可能也就在那里了。但是只有 Kevin 能找到这一本失控，所以它是unique 的，是独特的。那坤坤老师，所以你也不用担心你会，对吧？
会被取代。
对，你被取代，你写出来的东西，你都行。Kevin。
So here's something really, really interesting. So the model that Alan is making contains Borges' library. Okay? So it is, you've trained it all on the existing material. Maybe you've trained it on my book too. I don't know if that was included in book 1, book 2, or book 3, your training set. But what that latent space is, that latent space inside your model, it contains the information for every human face, and it contains the information for every possible book. It's not just that it contains all the existing material that it scanned, it also contains, in a certain sense, all the in-betweens in that latent space. You can transform it by moving it from one vector to another. You're going through, it actually has the library of Borges of all possible books, just like there's all possible images that you can make a query for, and it can produce it. So that's the wonderful thing about these models, is that they actually contain Borges's library of all possible books. So even if you didn't scan my book, it is theoretically inside your model.
其实现在去时代好像
对，但是模型需要有人来激发它，人来去提出来，我们需要一个什么
Yes.
prompt
对
才能把这些内容给它发掘出来。对，
是，
对，那可以
Yes.
可以把这个 prompt 也可以看作是，其实您是在引导这个机器去帮助您找到、寻找、搜索的这样一个过程。
对，所以我们说以前神话里面的那些咒语，真是非常浪漫的。
所以说现在是一个魔法时代，
对，非常浪漫的一个想象，太纯真了。